Well, hey everybody, Dunn here. On the run with Beards and Dunn, short the Beards. He's not available again this week. You know, last week I mentioned he was having some trouble with his knee, and unfortunately, he's in the hospital. He had to have some surgery on his, I don't know which one's his bad knee. One of his knees are both bad, and he's got a heck of an infection in there, and so they did some surgery on Friday. They're keeping him in, loading him up with some big-time antibiotics. So I know he'd probably appreciate a note, message him on Facebook or Dick at dickbeardsley.com. Send him a thinking of you, Dick, keeping you in our thoughts and prayers. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. So for this week's episode, we went back and we selected about 9 or so stories from the first 14 episodes that we enjoyed, and we hope you'd like to hear them one more time, kind of the best of in some of our minds. And so I hope you take some time to sit back and enjoy some of the old stories that we've already told you, but you might have forgotten. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you real soon. We've all been together now for 2-3 years, and sitting in the back is this guy that we didn't even know who, really we didn't know what you looked like.
No.
We've never seen a photo of you before, but I was sitting up in the front row and we were all jabbering away, and somebody goes, "Yeah, that's Beardsley back there." And I kind of looked over my I think we all kind of at one time all turned and looked at you.
Yeah, I was sitting by myself in the corner.
And we thought, well, he looks like he's fit, sort of thing. And nobody really, it's not like I feel bad. It's not like any one of us went back there and said, "Hey, why don't you come up sit in the front row with us?"
No, not one of you did.
No, we didn't. We were we were all just having fun seeing our old buddies, our old
I don't
teammates.
blame you.
And so Undy went through his little talk, and I can't remember what he said, but he gave us out our workouts and told us here's your race schedules and kind of talked about. I have no memory after that of what he did. But the meeting was kind of rolling to an end. I'm sure you were introduced and probably stood up and waved or something like that. And everybody kind of was like, "Okay, well, we'll see you. We're going to be running out of Brown Hall tomorrow morning, like we always did at 6:30 in the morning. And everybody gather there. We'll see you then." And I thought, well, I'm going to go back and see this Beardsley guy and just kind of welcome him on the team. And I turned around and you were gone. I mean,
I don't remember that.
Oh my gosh. It's like the door, all we saw was the door flapping in the wind. It's like you booked out of there so fast. And I kind of hightailed it out of there and I caught you on that Hyper Center. Remember that big clock, that digital clock?
Yes.
Which was like really futuristic in the 1970s. Right underneath that big digital clock, you're about ready to head down the steps there. And I go, "Hey, Beardsley." And you stopped. I go, "Hey, Beards, I'm Mike Dunlap." And we shook hands and I kind of don't remember everything, but I said, "Dick, we're really happy to have you on the team. We're looking forward to, running with you." Because I wanted you to know, because I put myself in your place. I thought, man, to be the new guy here,
right?
No one. And we're all up there slapping each other on the back, high-fiving each other because we're all old buddies getting back together again. And so when you had disappeared like that, I felt kind of bad about it. It's like,
and it did feel a little awkward for me. I felt out of place. Just because I didn't know anybody, and again, like you were saying earlier, Dunn, these are all guys we haven't, teammates we hadn't seen probably all summer, most of them, and then all of a sudden we're getting back and we're, talking about things we did during the summer, and I'm the new kid on the block, and I'm not one that, I'm still this way. I'm not one that'll go up and, hey, you know who I am? I'm Dick Beardsley. I'm just not one of those kind of people.
You didn't take it. You weren't assertive. Like,
no.
Gee, what a shocker. A distance runner who's not assertive. I mean, Prefontaine was the only assertive runner
right.
I've ever heard of in my life. So, Dick's like, and that's probably maybe why we kind of like, we're not going to make a big thing about this. We don't want to make the guy feel like he's some weirdo. But I have to admit, when you disappeared that quick, I ran out. I wanted to find you before you went back to your dorm or whatever. And I'm glad we did, because then we had a little chance to at least connect. And I probably said, and you probably said, "Yep, see you tomorrow morning. We'll go for that run." And then I don't know if you want to go the rest of that later that day. So, the first day of college it's registration. There's no classes.
No.
So it's really very relaxed. Everybody's milling around campus. People are kind of making, seeing their old classmates. And, we're always looking for girls. The girls are looking for boys. And so we did that run that first morning. And we have some photos I'm going to be posting on our website. How we got, I don't remember who the photographer was. It might have been that gal who took our picture running in Brookings. But we had a photographer out there just taking some shots for the school paper of
right.
the SDSU cross country team, getting their early season workouts in. And it's some pretty good shots of a huge group of guys running down the road, and you're in there and I'm in there. So later that morning or that day, my girlfriend, who's not my wife, Karen, we're just, I don't even remember. We're driving downtown for some reason, maybe to go have lunch or something. And who do we see walking down the sidewalk, heading downtown? Because the campus sits on the edge, the northeast side of the city of Brookings. And it's about a mile or two down to downtown. I go, look, that looks like Dick Beardsley walking down the sidewalk. So I ease the car over to the side where, along the curb, and Dick kind of looked like, who is this? And my girlfriend, my wife, Karen, rolled down the window. I go, hey, Beardsley. I said, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I just going downtown. He says, I got to buy some pencils. And I said, and I'm thinking pencils, all right. I said, he probably needs a pencil. I said, well, hop in. I said, we'll give you a lift. And he goes, oh, no. He said, you guys are out having fun. I don't want to, interrupt or, interfere in your, whatever you guys are doing. And I said, shut up and get in the car. Because it was like, oh, come on, Beards, get in the car. And like, as I tell people to this day, he got in the car and he never got out. He's still in our car with us. But anyway, Beard slid in. My wife, Karen's sitting in between. And here's the three musketeers from that point on. And I don't remember, but from that moment, we bonded at that point. And yeah, we pretty much have been best friends.
We did.
And there we noticed, and you mentioned the plane was a 4-seater, and the pilot, you, Don Lee, the assistant coach, a grad assistant, and there was an empty seat. Right. And so we said to Undy, we go, well, look, there's an empty seat that's already been paid for. We should, and I kind of said, I think one of us seniors should get to fly back.
Yeah, the senior name, Mike Dunlap.
Yeah, well, there were only 3 seniors on the team that year. Oh, there were 4. And all the rest of the teams, and the girls' team was with us. They're all like, yeah, no, that's not right. We're not just letting some senior fly back. And so we said, well, let's, the only fair thing to do is let's draw straws, or we had cards. We always played cards. So let's draw cards. And the high card will get the seat and get to go back.
Right.
Be back in the afternoon. A couple hours, you'll be back in Brookings, where the rest of us will be not even halfway home on the van ride. And, I'm thinking, oh man, my girlfriend Karen, and Dick was dating his first wife Mary at this time, and so our girlfriends were waiting. In fact, they're going to be picking Dick up at the airport because they knew he was flying back. And I'm thinking, I got to get on that plane, and so we started shuffling cards, and everybody's starting. And we said, well, what if 2 people draw aces? Well, Ken Cezadlo, who's the smartest guy on the team, he had this hierarchy, like, hearts beats diamonds, diamonds beat spades, ace of club wins, if there's 2 aces drawn.
And Dunn,
whatever.
weren't you, before we even started
I was
cards,
offering money.
Yes.
I was offering money. I said, look, if anybody wins this, I will pay you. And I was thinking how much money I had in my checking account. I had $50. I said, I'll pay you $50.
Right.
I'll pay $50 for anybody who wins this, because I'm not feeling that confident. And some of the girls, I remember I think they didn't care. They go, yeah, Mike, $50. I'll sell you if I win it, I'll sell it. Some of the guys were like, no way. I want to get back too. And I was like, oh man. So I grabbed a card. Everybody's flipping their cards over finally. And somebody had like the ace of diamonds, and I can't even remember who it was. And they all said, well, and the only thing you could win was ace of spades. And the only
one that hadn't flipped their card yet was
me.
Dunn.
Because I was saying, and everybody was gathered around, and they're looking. I turn my card over, and it's the ace of spades.
Oh my gosh!
And Dick and I we jumped. We were hugging like little schoolgirls, jumping up and down.
We were.
And oh man, we were just high-fiving. They were kicking.
Everybody else could
spitting.
not believe it.
Well, I wanted it so bad. I was like the last guy they wanted to get it. No, I shouldn't say. We all loved each other, and everybody got along. But
but they didn't want you to get it because they knew you and I were such good buds.
They did. It was almost like, well, God, those guys are making us sick. All they do is hang out together with their girlfriends. And I got the freaking flight, and we got on the flight. I had a smile, the biggest smile on my face.
Oh.
We didn't run that great, but we didn't care that day. We were getting on a plane and flying home, and Beards, you want to say how we enjoyed that flight?
Well, do you remember it? Well, kind of. Did we have a little bit of a problem at one point or something?
All I remember is that sucker took off, and the guy was a great pilot, I guess. We flew into a cloud bank, and I couldn't see nothing except white. It looked like you're inside of a cotton ball. And it's a single prop, little airplane. And I just remember I've been in jets, commercial flights. This thing just rocked back and forth like a rowboat, like a canoe. It's like canoeing. You're never feeling really that secure in a canoe. Well, in a single prop airplane, I was about ready to puke. I mean, I was like, I couldn't see. The plane's rocking.
It was nasty.
We're flying straight into the ground. I don't know. I just remember I put my coat up over my head.
That was scary, Don.
It was a scary flight. Well, anyway, we buzzed the stadium as the Hobo Day football homecoming game was ending, and we landed. Our girlfriends pick us up. I even have a picture of me getting out of the plane that my girlfriend took, my wife took. And we then go, great. We head back to our dorms. Our girlfriends, we're making plans for the evening. Well, Dick and I, we have to go for a run. We're home in the afternoon and it's early and we ran the race this morning. So we go out for an easy 5-mile run. Told our girlfriends we're going to order pizza. We'll be over to the dorm like at 6 o'clock, 6:30. We'll order pizza. And we went out, did our easy 5. So, okay, we got 15 miles in for the day. And we have to do a 20-miler the next day on Sunday. And so we hang out with our girlfriends and we started playing board games, the game of life. I remember we played the game of life. We ordered pizza from George's Pizza, which is a traditional pizza place. They cut the pizzas into squares.
Right.
I've never seen that
Great
anywhere else.
pizza.
Great pizza, but they don't cut them into like pizza pie.
Triangles.
They don't cut them into triangles. They cut them into squares. But we're eating pizza. It's like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. We're just hanging out with our girlfriends. And finally, it's starting to catch up with us. And we're in the girls' dorm. And you're not supposed to be in the girls' dorm after midnight. So what you do, you'd look down the hallway. Your girlfriend would look down the hallway and go, yeah, it's clear. And the guys would book to the fire escape. And you'd hear because you didn't want the girls getting in trouble for boys being in the room. They'd get rid up or something. And you'd hear the fire doors boom open as the boys would run out of there. And so Dick and I leave. We get out of there. It's like 3 a.m.
Yes.
I'm not exaggerating. We're going, man, I'm tired. And you said, me too. And we go, well, let's get back to our rooms, get some sleep, and we'll go for a 20-miler tomorrow because that was on our training plan. And so we're leaving we could walk through campus together. And then your dorm is on the west side.
Yes.
Mine is on the south side. And we had to split. It's like, oh, Beards, I'll see you tomorrow. Let's run it like noon or something. We'll do our 20-miler. Yeah, okay. And Beards, I swear, I don't remember if it was you or me, but we got about 50 yards apart, and one of us turned to the other and go,
It was me.
And you go, done. Let's just do it now, and then we can sleep all day tomorrow. And I'm thinking, that's a great idea. We're awake. It's like 3:30 in the morning. It's cool.
Yeah.
And, let's just go do a 20-miler. We'll get it done. We'll be done by like 6:30, and then we don't have to run tomorrow. We got our work done. It's already Sunday anyway. It's like, okay, Beards, I'm heading over I'm going to get my stuff. I'll meet you at your room. And he goes, all right. So I head to my dorm, throw a bunch of my some clean shorts, and my socks, my running shoes, head all the way across campus. Dick's in his dorm room now, looking for a dry pair of socks or something that he can wear. So I get to the room and I'm going to change into my running stuff and Dick's changing. And Dick, do you want to take it from there?
So Mike and I are in my dorm room and it's dark out and I didn't have my shades pulled down or nothing like that. So
ground floor.
So anyhow, Mikey and I, or Dunn and I we're getting dressed. So we're standing there. We're both buck naked, looking for our running stuff. And I happen to grab a jar of Vaseline.
Why would you grab that jar of Vaseline,
because
Dick?
I was going to lube my toes up or something. I think I might have had some blisters on them.
Well, and chafing in the inside of your legs.
Right.
We usually,
so all of a sudden, like Mike is bent over buck naked in front of the window, reaching down to get a pair of socks or something. I'm standing right behind him, buck naked, with a jar of Vaseline in my hands. And
the window shades up.
With the window shades up, and we both kind of looked and thought, oh my God! We went and pulled the window shade down, and oh my God!
I think you pulled the window shade so hard it pulled the roll off the window, and we had to put the window shade back on the window. And it's like if anybody had been walking by that window at 4 a.m, Hobo Day weekend, this would have made the school paper. Let me just put it that way. I'm going to put this on our extras on our website, and I send it out to some of the alumni already. Bob Bartley just loved to get a bunch of runners together and head out to an out-of-state road race somewhere. We'd go down to Ames, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. We'd go to Kansas City. We went to Topeka, Kansas, I know 2 years in a row after cross-country. I did to do a marathon with Bob. And Bob would just love loading up a car, runners, good runners, and going to some road race. And so 1 week after Nationals, you, me, Bob jumped in his Oldsmobile, if I remember right.
Yep.
We stopped in Sioux Falls and picked up my old roommate and our old friend, Randy Fisher. And Randy had been training on his own and running quite well. I think he's right around. I think he'd already run about a 2. I think he ran 2:19 at Grandma's in 1980, if I remember right. He got third place.
He did.
Yeah, and so this was right before that. And so the four of us headed to Kansas City, Missouri to run the Schlitz Light 25K. I got to laugh when I think about all the beer companies. Coors did I did a Coors Light 10K. You and I did
They all did.
Oh, the beer company. Bud Light, you ran it in Rapid City a couple summers in a row. We had our running camp, and we'd always have the Bud Light 10K. And so these beer companies sponsoring heart healthy, productive sports.
And all the beer you could drink at the end of the race.
At the end. But it was a 25K, and it was around some park in Kansas City. And we got there the night before. I remember driving. We were trying to find a hotel, and I think we got some pretty shady parts of Kansas City, if I remember right. But Bob got us to the hotel, and we got out there to the starting line the next day in this park. There were like 600. I looked it up, the results, 604 runners. And
that's a big race back then.
Oh, it was November 18th, so it was a weekend before Thanksgiving. And it was crystal clear morning. Sun was shining. I'm guessing around 40, 45 degrees, which is, It was uncomfortable at the starting line.
It was a little chilly.
It was cold. And they always say, if you're uncomfortable at the starting line, you're dressed properly. Because, if you come out there. Well, you and I showed up, and I can't remember. We just had singlets and our racing shorts. We didn't have gloves
our Prairie
on.
Strider signets.
Yeah, just that. And there was an old SDSU alumnus named Bob Busby. And Bob was an outstanding runner for South Dakota State University and gone on. And if I remember correctly, Bob ran a 2:16 marathon later in his career.
Yeah, he was
after
good.
Leaving college. Oh, he was an outstanding runner, lived in the Kansas City area. And I'd heard a lot about him. He had that South Dakota State marathon record for runners. He ran a 2:37 marathon in college. And that was kind of the, quote, unofficial school record. I don't know if they really even keep a official school record for a marathon. But he had it, and I knew it because we ended up breaking that. Randy Fisher and I did. A guy named Ron Amundsen ran under that. And so I knew Bob Busby by his reputation. Well, he was at the race. And so as we came up there, and Bob knew Busby. And so I don't know if he introduced us, but we were standing there. And this guy had like long winter underwear on. He had a turtleneck and gloves on, stocking hat. Because he's from Kansas City, and I think 40, 45 degrees is getting down there chilly for those guys.
Right.
Well, up at Brookings, that's a balmy day. I mean, that's a great day to go running.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what he said?
I remember he kind of got smart alecky and said something to us like, "Oh, look at these boys from up north or something." Yeah.
They think they're so tough.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they think they're so tough.
And I don't know about you, Beards, but I just love when somebody throws kind of a little, I wouldn't call it an insult necessarily, but kind of a dig.
It got us charged up a little bit.
Oh, you better believe it. Whenever somebody kind of gives you that little disrespect or something, it's like, really? You think we're not that tough, huh? And so, I mean, I was ready, man, shoot the gun. Let's
exactly.
go.
Me
anyway,
too.
And so they shot the gun, and I really don't remember a lot of the race other than it was a goddamn hilly road race.
Hilly. You had to be part Billy Goat to run that course.
But we had been running hills in preparation for our national cross-country meet all season, even though it didn't look like we had a week earlier. And so, I put on our website under extras, it says we peaked a week too late because you and I, we had a good day. And I know you took off and you were right at the front. I kind of started a little easier and kind of back of the front pack, kind of watching. There were probably 10, 12 guys in front of me. And I just know, Beards, I kind of kept moving up through the field as the race went on.
And wasn't it? It was an out and back course, if I remember.
Out and back twice.
Yes.
Out and back, which is, it was that. They crammed 15 and a half miles into this park.
Right.
That you could really only run about 4 miles in one direction.
Yeah.
So you went out and you came back to the starting line and you're half done. And then you went out again and back. So you really kind of had to do all the hills twice going out, twice coming back. And I don't, I'm just going to cut to the chase. With about a mile or two to go, I'd moved myself up into third place. And I could see across this lake. There was a lake in the middle of the park. And you were in the lead. So I don't know what happened between when I lost sight of you, and right towards the end of the race. But you were up there dueling with a fella that we both knew.
Fred Carnahan.
Fred Carnahan out of Kearney, Nebraska, I believe.
And Dunn, I was worried because him and I had kind of broken away. Then I broke away from him, and back then I had that terrible habit of looking back, and gosh dang it seemed like Fred was closing the gap, and I'm thinking I knew that the winner got to go to the Schlitz Marathon National Championship, all expenses paid. So I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. And I'm like, I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to the good Lord. Please, Lord, just let me get there before he does. And I was fortunate to win that day. And I think Fred was maybe about 40 seconds back or something like that.
And you guys you were like 2 minutes ahead of me. He was about a minute ahead of me. So you guys had really distance us, the rest of the lead group, if you would. And I just kind of bided my time. And so when I moved into third, and I kept looking, and there was nobody behind me, and I was like in that catbird state. I didn't have to worry about catching you two guys because I wasn't going to catch you. I knew that because you were too far ahead. And I just had to kind of keep my rhythm and to get to the finish and finish third. And what I just remembered is I was coming into the finish, the last 2 or 3 miles, a lot of the runners were just heading back out to start their second lap.
Yes.
And they were like very enthusiastic, and the people were cheering for, I'm sure they cheered for you a ton as you were the leader. But when I came by myself, they were like, hey, you're looking great job. You're in third. And they would reach out and I'd high five them. Like, if you ever watch at track meets when they take their victory lap and they're all, high-fiving everybody in the stands, or at the Tour de France after they finish and they're riding back to their bus, they're high-fiving people. Well, people are high-fiving me. Oh, I was just getting totally jacked
up.
And
Dunn, let me just interrupt for a second. And any listeners that like to run races and it's a course with an out and back, and they think, oh man, out and back. But man, the feedback you get from the other runners when you come back and there's still runners going the other way, it's like having a built-in crowd there to cheer you on.
It's, and a lot of times you're thinking you're the only one out there suffering.
Yeah.
And when you turn around and, when there's 500 runners or whatever, or 100 runners behind you, and you see how hard they're working just as hard as you are, if not harder, kind of, we're all in this together. It's kind of like esprit de corps. And the fact that you might be going just a little bit faster than they are, we're all out there putting in the same effort.
Absolutely.
Is just putting in, it's going as fast as they can. Well, we finished the race, and you got first, and I always said, you got the biggest goddamn trophy I'd ever seen in my life. I swear the thing was almost as tall as you are.
Seriously, of all the races I ran before that and after that, without doubt, that thing was
huge.
It was like 4 feet tall or something.
Well, we loaded that up in the car. I think we had a whole bunch of they gave away a lot of swag, as they call it back in the day, And we raked in. Randy Fisher got 10th, so we had 3 Prairie Striders in the top 10 finishers of a really strong field. If there had been a team title, we would have had
for sure.
Bob finished second in the 50 and over division, and I'm not sure how old Bob was at that time, but he was a lot older than 50. He was probably closer to 60 at that time. And so he ran really well. And so the ride back, I always remember, Bob, you're going to have a good time with Bob riding to a race and coming home no matter what. That was extra good. I remember we stopped at my house. I don't think we're going through Sioux Falls. I lived 3-4 miles off the interstate. I wanted my folks, we went to our house just for a quick stop to show them that damn trophy. I said, I took it in the house and look it's a dick one. And it's like, oh my gosh, they'd seen a lot of trophies, but nothing like that. And so he put a race on in January called the Frostbite 5, which is well named, because if you're running races, if you're running in January, there's a chance of frostbite every day. Well, anyway, he put a race on, and I know you had won it in 1978, and I think you might have been the one who told me about it, but you were back that weekend visiting Mary and said, yeah, there's a race in Lumberton, and I thought, gosh, I'm in pretty good shape. And I thought, how am I going to get over there? And you said, Mike, just take my pickup, because you had this old, I don't know what kind of, it had 3 on the tree. That's what I remember. You had to drive a manual, and I knew how to do that. So my girlfriend, fiance, future wife, Karen, jumps in with me, and she and I take your pickup truck, drive to Lumberton that morning, and the roads were not good. And we got there.
Snowy.
It's a 5-mile race, 4 miles on gravel road. The last mile in Lumberton's kind of on paved road, and they bus you out 5 miles.
Right.
I think they kind of do that for the wind, because man, if I don't know if they took us south of town, because I don't know.
It's wide open country.
Yeah, you want to make sure you got a tailwind. otherwise a headwind on a cold frigid. It was cold. So we're riding in this bus, a whole bunch of runners, out to the 5-mile drop-off point. And the minute they get there and they say, okay, everybody off the bus, you want that gun to go off. I mean,
Yes,
line them up,
yes.
let's go. It's freezing out here. And the road was snow-packed. Well, the only reason I'm telling you this story is I wasn't sure do I wear my training flats? Or I had some nice racing flats, or lightweight, but no tread on them whatsoever. And then I thought, geez, I even had thrown my track spikes in. And it's like, wait a minute, it's a road race. It's a road race. It's not a track race or a cross-country race. But I'm thinking, hey, it's gravel road and it's snow-packed. So
Right.
I lace up my track spikes. Well, first I went out and tried running in my I tried running in my training. I was slip sliding all over the place. And
Oh,
I thought,
yeah.
man, so I put on my track spikes and I went out for a little jog real quick before the race started. And it's like, yeah, this works pretty good.
No
so
kidding.
I line up with track spikes on in this road race.
The only one that had them, too, I'll
Oh,
bet.
definitely the only one doing it. Nobody else brought anything with them. I had a bag full of shoes with me on the bus. Well, anyway, the gun goes off and boom, the first half mile, there's a guy, and I found out later it was Paul Mosling, and Paul's a fantastic
Heck of a runner.
Oh, he went on to run a 2:16 marathon, and he's a physician now. He's a medical doctor.
Right.
And I knew Paul by his reputation as he was like a Division III, I think, All-American several times. Just a really good runner. And I thought, uh-oh. And I caught up to him at about the half-mile mark. And you always kind of take a good deep breath before you want to talk like the guy next to you is, you don't want him to know you're hurting at all.
Right.
So I go to, hey, Paul. I said, how you doing? And he's slip sliding. I mean, you could see every time he'd go to step off, his foot would slip,
Right.
and he was kind of cussing under his breath. And I said, well, have a good run or something. And I just took off. And I tell you, I wasn't slipping. I had spikes on.
No.
And I tell you, by the time I got to town, the 4-mile mark, whatever, I couldn't even see Paul behind me. And I thought, well, this is great. And then I got into town, even though the roads were snow-packed, my spikes were like click, clack, click, 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 click,
Oh, I
click, clack
bet.
on the asphalt. And I was thinking, gosh, I'm going to fall. It's like I'm on ice skates here.
Well,
I
yeah,
get to
now
the-
you're just the opposite now with
my-
those spikes on.
So I know I really didn't need him that last mile, but I got across the finish line, and I go in and they had a chili feed, and I remember Paul, he got second, and his folks were there watching the race. I remember I went over to him later and just said, hey, good job or something. And he's just like, yeah, whatever, and I think to this day, if I ever talk to him, he's still mad at me for wearing track spikes in a road race. And I had huge advantage.
Well, but you know what? That's, again, when you get ready for an event like that, you bring everything that might help you and give you an advantage. And you were the one that thought, you know what? I'm going to throw my spikes in just in case. And it paid off.
Oh, Bill Winmark, your coach, one of your former coaches,
Yeah.
always said you have your toolbox.
Right.
Your toolbox is sometimes it's your sprint, it's your good on the hills, it's your great endurance base. I mean, we've got all these tools at our disposal. Well, then there's actually the actual physical things like your track spikes or your racing flats or what have you. And so I just had to throw that in there because I'm probably one of the few runners in the world to ever win a road race with track spikes on.
So we're in a tight bunch. We're running along, and we're probably about, 17, 18 miles into the race, and we come onto this big open boulevard where there was no shade, and it was a very warm, sunny day, running in June, a marathon. And so we're coming up onto a person's aid station. It wasn't one that was actually one of the races, but there was this little old lady that had a card table out on the side of the road, and there was a bunch of sponges on there, and some were in a bucket, some were just wet sitting on there. So I'm dying of thirst, and I am thirsty. So I slowed down and I reached into the bucket and grabbed a sponge. Well, I was so thirsty, I put it in my mouth and I just sucked down on it big time and swallowed this big sponge full of soapy water.
Fair. She probably brought that bucket of spongy to clean her card table off.
Yeah.
I know, my Lord.
I'm thinking, did she just wash her car with this thing?
Oh, no.
And so within about a quarter mile, I've got the biggest gut ache. I cramp up, and the three Japanese runners, they take off, and I just there's nothing I can do. And so I finally came to an aid station with about 4 miles or so left to go, and I got some, real water in a cup and drank it down and swished my mouth out. I was blowing bubbles for the next half a mile.
Training tip, don't drink soapy
Right.
water. Okay.
No.
Tell people where Bone Steel is, Dick.
Yeah. So Bonesteel, South Dakota, most people have probably never heard of it. It's 150 miles southwest of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it's just on the west side of the Missouri River out there. And honest to goodness, if the wind is from the north and you spit, it'll land in Nebraska. That's how close they are. And it's just a little town of about, I think, 250 people. And in fact, when I first started going out there, all the streets in town, even Main Street, was a dirt road.
Wow.
Well, then Mary's dad became the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
He got paid $1 a month for being the mayor. But he got all these grants from the government, and they paved all the roads in town. They put up a new water tower. They put up a swimming, a town swimming pool for the kids.
Oh.
I mean, he really turned that town into something. And I still go out there, twice a year to go fishing and stuff. And I know everybody out there, so
Sure.
it's kind of fun.
And we had a great time when you got married. Then the week after the Canadian Marathon, I was in the wedding party, and I was always
Right.
really honored by that. And we got out there, and you and I started a tradition because I kind of forgot you just ran a marathon, but man, you had no ill effects because the morning of your marathon, you and I said, well, let's go for a run. And I was training pretty hard. You were right back into it. Maybe it was your first kind of run after your marathon, but
No, Don, you know me. I mean, I after a marathon, the next morning I'd go out for about a 45-minute jog, maybe an hour the next day, and by the third day,
you're good to go.
I thought, well, time to start training again.
know,
I look back on that now. How stupid was that?
I don't know. Well, you obviously had I don't know how to say it, a light stride.
I recovered quickly.
You did. You recovered awesome. You thank your grandparents. I think you inherited some
Right.
genetics there or something. But you and I went out I remember we did a 15-mile run the morning of your wedding.
We did.
And that was so much fun. It was just you and me out in the middle of goddamn nowhere. I can't remember. I think we kind of did an out and back because there weren't that many roads to run on.
We did. We went out on a gravel road, and it was kind of up and down through hills, and we got out about 7.5, 8 miles, and we thought, well, guess we better get back for the wedding.
All right. Well, we got back, and I think the coolest part of your wedding, it was an awesome day. We had so much fun. But we got back, and all the groomsmen were meeting at the church, and it was a Catholic church. And I just remembered, I was pretty. We had ran 15 miles that morning.
Right.
And your groomsmen were some of your old buddies and stuff. We were all there, and the Catholic priest, he had us in the back room waiting for the festivities, the service to get started. And he had a refrigerator, and he opened it up, and he goes, boys, there's going to be a hot one out there today. I don't think the church is air conditioned. And he opens up the fridge, and he pulls out a 12-pack of beer.
Right.
And he hands us all, I think it was Miller High Life, if I remember right. I like Miller. Anyway, he cracks them open, and we're all sitting back there going, okay. And man, I was loopy for your wedding, if I remember right.
That was Father Igo, and he's the one that performed our ceremony, and he did. I'll never forget that. And I think he even had a beer or two with us. And,
sure. Yeah.
And that's only in Bonesteel, South Dakota.
And then that night, I swear, if there were only 250 people in town, they were all at that wedding dance because it was a hootenanny, as they used to say.
Done.
Oh.
It really was. And now you got to remember, Mary's mom came she had 15 brothers and sisters, and Mary's dad, Ed, had 14 brothers and sisters, and they all grew up and farmed around that area. So just bringing all that family clan in.
With a couple hundred people right there. But
I'll tell you, back then I loved to dance, and wedding dances were a big thing back then. They didn't have DJs like they do now. Do you remember the name of our band we had?
I don't.
Leo Brodsky and the Elkhorn Valley Boys.
It sounds like a John Candy movie or something like that.
We had so much fun. And then do you remember this, Don? So when the band halfway through, they took a little bit of a break. So my best man at the time was a high school buddy of mine, George Ross. And George and I got up there. The guys in the band said we could use their guitars. We both played the guitar. and we both got up there and sang, "Put another log on the fire," and everybody's dancing around.
I tell you, I got so tired. The party was going on when I left, and I'm not sure. I think the Brant boys were there from SDSU, and those guys, they probably closed the place down knowing those two. But I did get married May 31st in Spencer, Iowa. And Dick, I'm always so proud. You were one of my groomsmen. My brothers.
Absolutely.
My two best friends in the world, Dick Beardsley and Al Stropmeyer. And Al, you're going to hear about it on another podcast someday. He's passed now. And Al was just a unique individual, very dynamic, and had a charisma you couldn't believe. And he was my best training partner. We were good friends. And he was my best man. And as Dick and I had started a tradition at his wedding a year earlier, we did a run the morning of his wedding, just him and I. And then, of course, for my wedding, Dick said, "Hey, we're going for a morning run." And Al was there as my best man, and Al was really in great shape. And I was just getting fit and not fit. I was just running. I said, "Look, you guys, I'm good for 5 miles. I can go out running." And they go, "That's good. We just want to get a run in with you on your day of your wedding, your last day as a bachelor, and all this."
Exactly.
So I said, "No problem." And I had my stuff, and we got loaded up that morning of my wedding. And I'd been to Spencer, but never really ran around Spencer, Iowa. And so Al, Dick, and I took off from the hotel, wherever we were staying. And I said, "Well, we'll head south of town." And so we went south, and after about a mile, we crossed a bridge, a big river. And then we got to the corner, and if most runners know, I hate out and back routes. I'd rather do a loop. Just see scenery, So we got to the corner. He said, "Well, let's take a right, and we'll go another mile because everything's laid out on a grid system. And then we get to that corner. We'll do like a mile out, a quarter mile, 4 miles around, and then back to maybe it's going to be closer to 6 miles. Okay, I can do that." And we're going conversational pace. We're not pushing it. We're not racing. We're just out there enjoying each other's company and the day. And it was getting hot. And as we kept going,
it was getting hot. I remember that.
We're heading back, so we should be crossing this river. But what we quickly found out, there wasn't a bridge that we could cross the river. The road just kind of followed the river. And we said, "Well, let's go another mile and we'll hit a crossroad." Okay. So we go another mile, and then we go another mile. And all the ones we realize, we're 6 miles into this run, and we haven't made the crossing back across the river. Because I'm thinking if we cross the river, we will be back to our hotel. Well, little did we know, we would have had to go like 10 more miles to cross that darn river. We didn't know that, but and it's like 6 miles. I'm getting to the end of my range. Well, we stop and we go, "Well, what?" We're looking at our watches. I have to be back for like pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you got a wedding coming up.
It sounds like a Dick and Dunn, a Beards and Dunn adventure.
Right.
Like usual. And so we're standing there, and I go, "Okay, we got to figure this out. Do we stop down, flag down a car, 3 guys out running?" No. And Al, I just appreciated Al's enthusiasm. He goes, "This river doesn't look that big." He goes, "Let's just swim the freaking river." He goes, "Take your shoes off. We'll hold them in the air, and we'll swim. We'll wade until you can't wade, then just kind of side stroke across."
Yeah.
And I was a lifeguard. I said,
"Right,
Al, I am not drowned in the morning of my wedding." I said, "I can see the paper now. Groom dies morning of wedding, swimming river." So we just made the decision. Let's just retrace our tracks, and we did, and we got back, and it was a 12-mile run. And I have a picture. I don't have it. Maybe I'll put it on the website of me laying on the bed in my hotel. I don't know if my mom took it or something. And I'm like, "I'm done. I'm wiped out." That's a good way.
Well, you were toast.
I was toast. I was dehydrated and really over. I wasn't in shape to run 12 miles, but we did it. And now we laugh about it. I don't know if I am, we've run a marathon today, and we've been partying all night. And they said, "Hey, we're taking a limo back. Anybody want to go?" And like you and I are like, and you had to catch, I am not kidding, Beard. It's like a 6:30 a.m. flight.
Yeah, early.
We get into the hotel room like at midnight, 1 o'clock, and you go, "Done." I got to get up at like 5. And they're going to take me in a van to the airport. I'm going to try to be quiet and not wake you up. And I go, "Thanks." And you go, "Hey, great job. We'll talk after you get home and we'll see how things." He goes, "Now, when you get up in the morning, if you're hungry, just order whatever you want. Just sign my name to it.
Order room service.
Order some room service. Get yourself some food." I go, "Oh, thanks, Beard. Thanks." I heard nothing, Beards. You left. I wouldn't. For all I know, you were still in the room. But I got up and it was, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I got out of bed and I'm so stiff and sore from running a marathon. And don't ask me why, but you always did it. I went out for a run. And I tried to run. I'll just call it I pogo sticked because my legs hurt. That concrete just pounded me to death.
Oh, it does.
And I suffered through like 2 or 3 mile run. Shouldn't have done it. My legs were just trash.
Nor should I have.
But anyway, it's what we did. And I get back to the room and I go, I'm going to order room service. I ordered the biggest honking breakfast they had on the menu. It's like $30 or something like that. Pancakes, eggs. So this little guy, I get out of the shower finally. I hear the doorbell and it's like, hey, waiter or whatever. And I think, I got to tip this guy, So I had like $2, $3, and I thought, I'm from South Dakota, but I know you always tip the guy who brings you your food. So he rolls his food in there. And it's this he looks like he's old. He's probably like 50. When you're 25, everybody who's 50 looks old. Well, he rolls it in there and he goes, here's your food. And he started taking the lids off of things and getting it ready. I'm thinking, that's kind of cool. He goes, so did you run the marathon yesterday? And I said, yes, I did. Yes, I did. He goes, well, good for you. He said, how did you do? And I'm sitting there thinking, holy crap, I have to sign Dick Beardsley's name here. And I go, well, I got second. He goes, you got second? And I go, yeah. And he goes, wow. He said, that's fantastic. He goes, I just served Mr. Rogers his breakfast. And I said, how's Bill doing? And he goes, oh, he's doing great. He's doing great. Well, I signed Dick Beardsley on the receipt. I hand the guy the $3. I close the door and I think, oh my God, I just committed fraud. I said, I'm going to get I think there's like a what do they call it? A warrant out for me in Texas to this day for impersonating a runner.
Well, at about 30K, this front came through and the wind started blowing about 20 to 30 miles an hour right in our face. So now all of a sudden, up to that point, we're running like 206, 207 pace. So all of a sudden now this big wind comes through. We're heading right into it. So the two Soul brothers, they tuck in right behind me. Single file behind me.
It's like a bicycle race where they're drafting
right.
you. Yeah. They're
drafting me. So I'm thinking, okay, that's all right. I'll go for like a quarter mile and then one of them will
rotate.
Rotate. And that's kind of was the unspoken rule back then, at least in the U.S. And then with a mile or two to go, everybody's on their own. So I go for a quarter mile and those guys are still sucking off my back. I go for a half mile. They're still right there. So I've gone about 3/4 of a mile now and I'm bucking the wind and these guys are sucking off my back. So I turn and I motion with my right hand to come around me. Right. And they both shake their head no. So
yeah, you're doing fine.
Yeah. So then I thought, well, I can't be, bucking the wind for them for the rest of this race. So I thought, well, what the heck? So then I started zigzagging back and forth on the road, and they kept following me.
Cyclists, if you ever watch a cycling race, they do that. They do the same thing. Yeah. The cyclist is trying to kind of lose them. Yeah.
Yeah, and the TV truck, there's two Japanese announcers sitting on this little kind of a bed of a truck with the TV cameras, and I'm weaving back and forth, and I hear one of them go, Beardsley son, he gone cuckoo. They thought I went nuts. But they would not. They just kept following me. So finally, with about 35K, with about 5K left, honest to gosh, I came to a complete stop in the middle of the highway and let them go by me, and then I tucked in behind them. So I tuck in behind them. And the crowds are crazy. And they've all got their little Japanese flags. They're waving and they're cheering. And we're just coming into the city limits of Beppu with about a mile to go. Now, at this point, well, it had started catching up to me with about 3 miles to go. But with a mile to go, that race I'd run in Houston 3 weeks before was catching up with me.
Now, before you get to the last mile, I remember watching this video, and you forgot one little piece. When you got behind them, they started looking over their shoulders and they started to weave a little bit. And it was so funny. It was just like turnaround's fair play. You stayed and were snaking behind them. And it was kind of like
that.
Oh, I remember laughing and going, Pierce is doing the same thing to them, what they did. They wanted you to pass. Anyway, but eventually you guys. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions for Beards or myself or comments about the show, you can contact us directly on our website, beardsanddunpod.com, or leave us a comment on our Facebook, Instagram, or X, formerly Twitter, all at Beards and Dunpod. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit the like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoy the podcast and are interested in supporting what we do, merchandise is now available through our website. Well, I hope you all have a great day, and I hope we have Beards back to visit with us again next week. Bye, everybody.